got a couple things here. I have provided the shared liability agreement with the county attorney's office for legal review and everything. It was come back, said, okay, it's basically a photocopy of what we had prior to the changing of the staffing from other county supervisors on that board. That was provided then to Mississippi Valley. Then the Mississippi Valley has communicated, they wanna know if we are gonna do that funding of the $1,200 or give or take for the training scenario of Mississippi Valley program for youth. We just need to make a determination on that.
And how much was that?
It's $1,200 and some odd dollars. You have the exact.
I have it in the file somewhere.
I have mixed thoughts on it. I mean, if the county was flush with money, that's one thing, but that's not the case. The biggest benefactor is the other counties, some of the big, more populated counties. We are included in Clinton County, Scott County, Muscatine County, Des Moines County, Lee County, Henry County. So, you know, I think the impact on Henry County youth are pretty minimal.
We need to have that as an agenda item for next week, we're gonna make a decision on that, so would you like to have that on the agenda?
Yeah, I would. I'd like to be able to give them an answer, yea or nay.
So we're gonna put them on, or?
Yeah, put it on the agenda, determination of support for Mississippi Valley Train Up program.
Is it train up or skill up?
Skill Up.
Any subcommittees?
I did. I had a Russ, and for those of you not familiar with it, is the Regional Utility Service Systems. We had an update on where we are with that, with the Treasurer's report, so everything is in good shape. They have finished moving all their money to IPATE, so we are in much better shape there from an interest standpoint, pulling in about 4.5% versus a 2%. So other than that, that was really the main items that we carried, and if anybody wants to see the meeting minutes, they're here, so I'll leave those available.
What is that?
Regional Utility, Russ. Now, those are the people that also take care of our environmental stuff through public health.
I had community action in Southeast Iowa, as I stated before. We are a committee, board, that is required by the federal government. And we have some leeway on things we do, but for the most part, we just have to do what the federal government tells us to do. I'm being very honest and frank about it. But I have asked them to come May, when we have community action month, to have a program out in our new Head Start building, which was the old Hammond building, which is called Glenwood Building. Glenwood, Tulsa, it was the instigator of all Head Start in Henry County. So other than that, our meeting was pretty much follow the agenda that we have to go by from the federal government. Approve the budget amendments. I've never seen, it took me the longest time when I got on this board to set a budget. And then they're always amending the budget. It's a moving target. They take money away, they give you money, whatever you can do. So you have to make those adjustments. So that was that one. The other thing was, since we didn't have a meeting last week, we attended Iowa Association of Counties, which was all the elected officials went. Those two over there went, all three of us, Robin, Jake was there, and Nate was there. So we had a good turnout of Henry County people. We had good sessions. And just learning what will be coming down to us for the future. The one thing is, this House File 718 scrapped, we're gonna start all over again with something else. Well, we've been working on our budget, sort of like the federal budget, like what I just said with community action. They tell us what to do, and now we might be having to revamp all our thoughts on our budget for the future, and how we go about it. That was, to me, the one big takeaway from the whole meeting. There were others, but that, for the public interest, that was it, my mind. Anything else, you two, Chad? You always have great notes.
Yeah, I tried to take notes. First thing, this was from a real general perspective. It wasn't from any individual county or anything like that. They said all the counties are experiencing civility problems at their meetings. It's not Hendrick County, it's not Des Moines County, it's across the board. Everybody is up in arms about everything, type thing. So just encourage, the ISAC people and the county supervisors that were given the presentations, just encourage, just try to work with people, try to be civilized, try to model and demonstrate civility in our actions, and expect civility back. That was that. Then there was another point here. Legislative updates, talking about eminent domains, things like that. That didn't sound like that was getting any traction. Just encourage everybody to be as efficient as possible. Try to get the biggest bang for everybody's buck. Is the end goal. Summarized in a few words. Try to get the biggest bang for your buck.
Well, on the last day, we had a session where I think was 8 different entities came in and talked to us and tried to tout how good they are and why we should be helping them out, truthfully. Just where we showing their worth to the county. So, I find that interesting.
I sat through congressional delegations, so all of our representatives for Iowa were there, US as well as statewide, and so they gave us a little update on some of the congressional focus that they have, and a lot of it is just really falling in line with where the president is at, and it trickles down to the state level. Nothing really new there, but it was interesting. There's 7 of those folks there. Talked a little bit about some community funding processes and how we should go through about that. With that, had a little conversation on eminent domain with those folks, and the majority of the Iowa congressional district is against eminent domain. So that was reassuring to hear with the stance that, especially Congressman Feenstra, because that's coming through his area first and foremost, and we heard from his folks to better understand that. I did talked a little bit about broadband and how we're going to get that into the counties, which I thought was pretty interesting. They're still working on it, and obviously the funds aren't flowing out as well as they should, especially, at least by my part of the county, they're not flowing out very well. So I'm a little shy on that area. To Mark's point, we did talk quite a bit about House File 718, and there are obviously lots of things going on there with our congressional delegates are really looking out for our best interest, I think. The folks that we have specifically when we talk about Taylor Collins, for example, we've got Shipley, Mark Lofgren, Adrian Dupuy. I think they were really looking out for our best interest in this particular area. They've done a pretty good job of trying to support us as a whole, knowing that we are really struggling from a rural aspect and we don't have the same opportunities as our folks. Everybody's talking about Dallas County. You don't know where that is. You've probably all been to Jordan Creek Mall. So it's Jordan Creek Mall, west and south towards Cummings and Van Meter in that area. And so they're getting all of those cloud buildings from the various IT organizations, whether it's Google or Facebook or whomever. So that's why they're growing so quickly. And I did talk with Todd Halliburton, who's a family friend of mine. He's from that area, and he's the auditor in Dallas County. So good, interesting conversation about what they think they can do from a growth aspect as compared to what we can do. So obviously, there's a huge difference there. And we're hitting that same thing with every one of those larger communities. You get into Muscatine, Davenport, Dubuque, they're all in favor of a sales tax or a to Chad's point earlier, that does not work very well in small town Iowa. So you got about 45 to 50 counties that would struggle if that were the case. And I think that goes back to the budget when we talk about that as a whole. And we really need to keep in perspective what we need and what we want. Those are two different things, and we can't afford everything that we want, kind of like your own budget at home. So we really need the input from the county to help us understand what's really necessary here. And you guys are the better people in a better position to tell us. We can follow through with that, but it really isn't right for us to make all of those decisions unilaterally. We need your input and your support to make the right decisions for the county as a whole. Talked a little bit about demographic projections as well, and that goes back to where we are. You know, a lot of the rural counties aren't growing like we see in some of the urban areas, and that's just a given. It's gonna happen, but it goes back to where we are with the taxation base and what we can do and what we have the ability to offer. So, and then the last thing we talked about that I thought was really interesting, you guys sit on it as well, is TIF, you know, tax increment financing. So a really good session and pretty interesting. And maybe that's not the best in some residential areas, but it works pretty well for commercial. So I think there are lots of opportunities to discuss that more when it comes to residential projects, like out at Westland, for example. And again, we can use your input on that when you have the time. Okay.
My notes showed up a couple of other things here. One thing that several counties have been starting to deal with is these data mining facilities. They are basically a container or a couple containers wired into a series type of thing, set out usually adjacent to a transmission line or a high line type thing that is just a big supercomputer in a container. So as you well know, if they sit on wheels, there's no property value. So it's a mobile machine, you know, it's a mobile piece of property. It's not like real estate, if you will. I mean, it doesn't have a,
Probably goes like for a trailer.
well,
It'd be like an office trailer on a
it's
construction site.
like a semi-trailer, a container type ship that is just parked there. It's not a permanent building, so it doesn't have a foundation. And they're using exuberant amounts of energy. One county said that they're using like $5,000 of electricity every day to run these supercomputers and cooling and everything like that. And what one county had found out, that the infrastructure wasn't there to support that draw of electricity, and would essentially starve other entities if they wanted to build there. That would create jobs and you know, benefit to the county other than just the data mining. So the general cautionary thing was to say, hey, you want to get some details on this, because they don't pay any property taxes, because they don't want to set them on a foundation. They don't want to do anything. They just want them to let them sit there like a trailer.
Wouldn't that be like a BLL, build on this land? I mean, they don't own the land.
But that county said, you want to watch that, just, you know, as a precautionary type thing, so.
Yeah, there were actually a couple counties that brought that up.
Yep. And then another thing I wanted to explore, and I wanted to talk with Caleb a little bit more in depth. DNR paying each county for public hunting properties. You know, we have, you know, just shy of 1,000 acres of private or conservation ground, and if it's open, I've written down $436 per acre if it's open to public hunting. I want to be able to confirm and look at that a little bit, because that's, you know, and the conservation may already be doing that, I don't know, but I want to explore it a little bit more.
We have received a letter from Joel Gerritsen, dated March 19th, 2025. That's from Joel Gerritsen, Chairman, Henry County Historical Preservation Commission, to us as supervisors, to the auditor's office, and also to the Preservation Commission itself. After 15 years of serving on the Henry County Historical Preservation Commission, I have decided to leave at the end of my current term, which expires this year on December 31st, 2025. It has been a privilege to serve the community in promoting and protecting our cultural and historical heritage, and I have enjoyed working with my fellow commissioners on many projects we have completed during my years of service. I will continue to be a resource for history of Jackson Township and the Salem area, Joel Garrettson. So we'll have that resignation for the future. Next thing and last on our agenda is public